thought line back and have a conversation that explores beyond the obvious, beyond the thinking. And today I have my special guest. He's an author of Eight Limbs of Aerial Yoga, Adopting Practice and Neurodiversity, Accessibility and Physical Support, founder of Garden Yoga, co-host of the Flow Artist podcast, none other than Ms. Jo Stewart.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. It's so nice to meet you.
Welcome, Ms. Jo. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
Sure, so I've been teaching yoga for 20 years. I live in now Melbourne, Australia. I've been teaching aerial yoga for about 12 years. I've just written my book. It's published on April 21st, 2026. So it's available for pre-order now. And I'm really passionate about sharing yoga in particular, but movement in general, in a way that just meets everyone where they're at, making these practices and their mental and physical benefits accessible for everybody.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Ms. Jo. Thank you. And today let's talk about yoga for women's health, menstruation, pregnancy, postpartum, premenopause, and menopause, and active aging. Tell us what it's all about, Ms. Jo.
Well, one thing I will say about women's health is it's a very under-researched and underfunded area. So all of the practices that I'm suggesting, while they can be really helpful and in profound ways, are not a substitute for medical care when that is what's needed. And I would never want to dismiss any woman, cisgendered or otherwise, anyone of any gender's health problems as something that's in their mind when it's a physical thing that they can feel in their body. So while there are a lot of benefits to working with the nervous system, dealing with stress, regulating our sleep rhythms, this, like what I do, what I share, aerial yoga is just one tool in the toolbox. And it really is just about tuning into what each individual's issues might be, what feels helpful for them, hopefully helping them assemble a support team of other professionals if that's not already something that they have in their lives. And I see myself as just like one small part of a much bigger puzzle.
Miss Jo, yoga philosophy speaks of the rhythms and cycles. How does deep understanding of the female hormonal cycle, like menstruation to menopause, transform yoga from a genetic fitness practice into a powerful tool for harmonizing with one's own biology?
I think one of the really powerful things that yoga can do for us is it gives us time and space for ourselves. So often, if women are parents, or even if they're not parents, many supporting professions like teaching, nursing, healthcare do have a female dominated workforce. And I find that a lot of people come to my class have very caring roles in the rest of their lives. They're taking care of other people through the day. So they need that time and that space for themselves to refill their own cup or recharge their own batteries to go back out into the world and do all of the things that they need to do. And when our attention is focused outwards, it's not an immediate switch to just tune into what's happening within your mind and body and know what you need to work with that. So we've got all these practices to help us bring our awareness inwards, whether it's paying attention to the breath. And that's a really simple one because, say, you've had a really stressful day or a stressful week, often the breath reflects that. You might come in and the breath is feeling more erratic, shorter, shallower breaths. Or what I notice for a lot of my students is if they're really concentrating on something in class or pushing themselves, they might also get that shallower breath pattern or even hold their breath. So just giving people space to connect with their breath in a way that feels comfortable for them, and then gradually work towards balance, maybe gently lengthening out the exhale, maybe learning to use more of the lungs, because if we're breathing that shallower, stressed breath, it's a lot in the upper chest, and that can translate into the excessive rebreathing muscles in the neck. So it can even lead to like neck and shoulder tension. And our breath's really amazing because it's one of the systems in our body that works while we're asleep. It can take care of itself. So, to consciously control the breath is a different head state. And if you do have particular patterns with your breathing, it can actually be quite challenging to breathe in a different way. So, that's a practice in itself, and also something that we don't want to overdo because sometimes it can actually create more stress for people. The aerial hammock can be a really helpful tool in that area because as the fabric wraps around your body in particular poses, it gives you another way to feel your breath. We can't see the back or the sides of the chest, but if we feel the fabric there and think of breathing into that and expanding into that, that can be a helpful tactile cue to help us tune into our breath in a new way and then use it to gradually move towards balance and to also use it to check in as we move through our practice. Because if we've established that even, smooth flow of breath, when we're relaxed, we can use it to tell us if we're working at a sustainable level, especially if we are doing a pose that's maybe working with a sensitive area of the body or a deeper stretch. We can check back in with that breath rhythm and use it as another way to awaken communication between the mind and the body. And that's just one example.
Very well said, Ms. Joe. Women's health phases are often medicalizes or seen as deficits. How can a yoga practice help reframe menstruation, premenopause, and menopause not as problems to be solved, but as a natural, intelligent transition to be navigated with awareness and even reverence?
And I think sometimes there are medical issues that do need attention, and sometimes because our hormones are quite connected to our stress levels, our sleep patterns. Those are some of the ways that we can work with our body's own systems. For example, cortisol levels. Cortisol is the hormone that we release when we need a burst of energy, when we're stressed, when we're under pressure. It gives us that like fire. And like it's useful. Like we need it. If we are in an emergency, it can save us. But higher cortisol levels in the body long term are correlated with higher pain levels and decreased sleep. Because obviously, if your body is receiving this emergency message from your hormone system, we don't go into a deep sleep. Our body perceives that it's not safe to do that. And not great sleep is also correlated with higher pain levels. So if we've got this cycle of feeling pain, feeling stressed about that, not sleeping well, worrying that it's going to get worse, as well as any compounding stresses that you might have, that's not a good cycle to be in. So if we share these practices that help us down regulate that sympathetic nervous system response, that stress response, and upregulate the parasympathetic nervous system response, our body's rest and digest response, bringing down those cortisol levels, that can help us achieve better sleep. It can help us feel more calm and at ease in our daily lives. And then that can also decrease some of the pain sensitivity that we might be feeling. Because, of course, there are a lot of chronic health conditions, like endometriosis is a really serious one where there is a connection to the menstrual cycle, and often that's when it's worst, but it can actually be throughout the whole month. So our hormones are always fluctuating, and every body is really unique. So it really is that practice of creating space where we can tune into how we're feeling on the day, exploring different practices that might work for us, that might be helpful for us as an individual on that day, maybe putting them in your internal toolbox so you can come back to them. So if you remember, like, oh, last time I was stressed, maybe putting my legs up, whether it's up the wall or in the hammock, actually helped me feel more calm and relaxed. You can keep practicing that. And it can actually be really powerful as well to explore these different practices, not on your worst day, on a normal day, because we can obviously learn better if we're feeling kind of relatively calm, at ease, and not in pain. And then you can draw from that knowledge when you are having a worse day and you've already kind of integrated some of those movements in your body, or maybe a breath practice, or even a meditation practice. So it's a resource that you can come back to when you need it.
It's a resort, people, for sure. So, Miss Joe, let's talk about the yoga as a diagnostic tool. Can a consistent practice help women recognize subtle imbalances in her cycle earlier? Are there specific signs on the mat, inflexibility, energy, or emotional state that might reflect hormonal shift?
Yeah, absolutely. And sensitivity to pain is one of them. That is something that does tend to increase around menstruation time. Some people as well notice flexibility changes. So, this is very obvious during pregnancy when the body is releasing relaxin to prepare for birth. Connective tissues do tend to get looser. And because our focus is more internal in a yoga practice, that's a chance for the practitioner to notice if something's feeling different in their body. And that awareness can flow back out into their everyday lives. So maybe you notice things are feeling less stable around your pelvis, or maybe more sensitive around the pelvis. So that could be a message to either dial up your strength and stability work so that you do feel strong and stable in that area that's feeling vulnerable, or maybe that's not the day to go build a brick wall or move house if you can avoid that. Like, you might be getting a message from your body if things are feeling sensitive, if things are feeling vulnerable. Hopefully, you can like reach out if you do need a bit more help during those times. Or I know people who structure their calendar based on their own cycle. So, especially the people I know who have endometriosis, do not plan anything important during the week when their symptoms tend to be the worst. They will schedule that stuff for another time of the month so that they know they can be at their best when they need to, and they won't have to cancel things if that's a day when they have a migraine and they can't leave the house. So a lot of people do use cycle syncing as a way to plan their lives, and it really depends on how much flexibility you have in your schedule as to whether that is a helpful option for you. But a lot of that is also noticing the symptoms that you might have and noting them, because sometimes it is something like pelvic pain, which might feel a bit more obviously connected to a reproductive health issue, but often it's stuff like digestion or sleep or another system in the body, which might seem separate, but because everything is so interrelated, the more attuned we can be to tuning into how we're feeling in the body, and also how we're feeling in the mind, how we're feeling emotionally, how much energy we tend to have. All of those things can help us like tune into our strengths to hopefully plan things for when we feel our most energized and when we feel our best, and to set aside time if it feels like we're going to need it, when we can kind of minimize any extra things that we might have to deal with. So you can just like scale back and take time to rest if that's what you need.
Very well said, Miss Joe. Pregnancy yoga is often about creating space, isn't it? How does the practice teach a woman to partner with her transforming body, building a relationship of trust that serves her during birth and beyond?
So as the baby grows, it tends to push up on the diaphragm and on internal organs, and that includes the lungs. So a lot of what I do that's about creating space is like lateral stretching movements to create space in the sides of the rib cage, lengthening the spine, um, there's the physical space. So basically working with the arms, working with the shoulders, working with spinal movements to literally help create more space for a fuller breath so that people can access those benefits that I mentioned earlier that can be connected to being able to take full, slow, relaxed breaths. I think creating space in a schedule, especially people who do have a lot of other responsibilities, busy jobs, other family members, just other things in their lives that demand their care and attention. Sometimes you have to physically remove yourself from that, like, say, going to a yoga class for an hour where you can't even look at your phone. So you really have like created that space for yourself by physically bringing your body to a different place, setting that time aside in your day to focus on movement and breath and meditation practices. And that can help to set you up to practice those things in a smaller way at home, or even if that's just your breathing space for the week. And hopefully you feel a bit more relaxed or renewed as you go out into the world. I also like to actually do a lot of strength work with the pregnant clients that I work with, because after the baby is born, like, there's carrying the baby, but there's also carrying all the baby's stuff around. And, like, if you have a baby that doesn't sleep very easily, maybe it's hours of carrying and rocking the baby, whether you're like, however you're feeding the baby, there tends to be a bit of, like that hunched over, protective, supportive shape. And that's great for the baby. But for the parent, that can often lead to neck pain, upper back pain, shoulder pain. So the more that we can strengthen the muscles that support the neck, the upper back, and the shoulders, and basically do actions that are the opposite of that kind of hunched over, cradling shape, that helps to build a good foundation of support for all of that baby carrying time in the future. Because of the relaxin hormone that I mentioned earlier, connective tissues are getting looser. So, for some people, that translates into lower back pain or pelvic pain or sensitivity in that area. So, strengthening like the gluteal muscles and the legs can be a way of getting more of our muscles on board to provide that support as the connective tissues become looser and more flexible. And I think that there are some real mental health benefits as well, especially if someone is experiencing pain or discomfort in their pelvis, to do movements that help that area feel strong, supportive, powerful, not in pain. That's really powerful on a mental and a physical level. And I will just say as well, anytime that we're working with any pelvic sensitivity, pelvic floor physio is the expert in this area, and that's where I'd always refer my clients just to feel what's going on for them, because it can be different for everyone. And I can do my best work supporting them into finding the movements that really work for them if we've got a really clear sense of what's going on for them, and also so that they have someone else who just is the expert in that area, because it's like a different level of care and support.
Indeed. So, Ms. Joe, for many aging women, the ultimate goal is maintaining independence. How does yoga directly support functional sovereignty and strength to get up from a chair, the balance to prevent falls, and flexibility to dress oneself?
Well, actually, I do feel like this is one area where aerial yoga and the aerial hammock as a prop really stands out. One important biomarker of healthy active aging is grip strength. And we use our grip strength a lot to hold on to the hammock, even to do a move that's similar to a pull up, like a supported version of that. Some people do flips in my classes. So there are a lot of moves where we really use that power and like develop that grip strength and that power in the hands and in the forearms. Moving around, whether you're using your arms to pull yourself up, can be another way as well of just finding that integrated strength between the grip strength, the upper body strength, and balance and stability. If someone's already having balance challenges, the hammock can be a way to support them So they're safe in class, they can hold on to it, but it could be with the grip, or it could be with a light touch, or it could be holding the hammock, but actually lifting it up so that the fabric is loose. And this can be a group class. Each individual can determine what level of support and stability they need on that day and adjust accordingly. And then we can go into things like lifting one leg up or a standing pose where the legs are in different positions, moving from side to side. A great one is the arms going forward with one leg coming back behind. So, similar to Virabhadrasana 3, Warrior 3 pose, if you practice that one on the mat, because we get the glute and hamstring strength on both the standing leg and the lifted leg, actually. The person is traveling through space with their balance. So it's like a dynamic stability. It's not just finding a position and locking into it. It's really working with your balance and proprioceptive awareness as you move through space. And maybe the people who need more support, they can have a really firm hold on their hammock and keep their back leg lower to the ground. The people who are comfortable to challenge themselves more, they can be lifting the hammock so that the fabric is loose. They can be lifting more with their back leg. And because our balance is one of the systems that can be really different depending on what else is going on with our nervous system and with our bodies, if you're having a day where you are feeling fabulous, you can go for it and challenge yourself more. But if, say, you've had that bad night's sleep or that stressful week and your nervous system is feeling the impact of that, reduced balance is one of the things that you might notice. So that might be the day that you scale it back and go with more support. And then hopefully, as you move through the practice, you'll more and more feel like steady mentally and physically and able to reconnect to your balance. Or that's an insight to take with you as you move back out into your life. Like maybe that's not the day you climb up on your ladder and clean out your gutters. Like you kind of have those ways of checking in with your body and working with what you have going on at that moment, and just more and more finding that connection between the mind and the body and ways to work towards mental and physical balance.
Well, that's interesting, Miss Joe. So before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, because my abstract essay is already in sixth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in sixth season as well. Comedy 101 in its third season, and food 101 in sixth season as well. Geography 101, love letters, movie 101 review, music 101 on fifth season, and science 101, sex 101 in its fourth season. Spiritual awakening 101, trivia 101, law 101, mental health 101, motivation 101, entrepreneurship, and Bible verses 101 on my baby podcast. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Miss Joe, if you could give one piece of wisdom to a young woman just starting her yoga practice to serve as a touchstone through all her future life stages, what would it be?
So I've got to give credit to Jivana Heyman, founder of Accessible Yoga. He gave this really beautiful description of yoga as being a practice that helps you make friends with yourself. So yoga is not about contorting your body into a position that it doesn't want to move into or being hard on yourself. It's about learning about yourself, learning to love yourself, learning these practices that can help you live your best life. And if yoga can be that practice that helps you be your own best friend as you move through life, I think that's a really beautiful energy to bring to your practice.
Certainly, definitely. Thank you so much, Miss Joe, for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So can you please invite the listeners to support your advocacy, your business, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Thanks so much, Daniel. Thanks for your lovely questions and thanks for having me on your podcast. So I have my book, 8 Limbs of Aerial Yoga, Adapting Practice for Accessibility, Neurodiversity and Physical Support. You can pre-order that on all of the major retailers or at your local independent bookstore. I have my own podcast that I co-host, the Flow Artist Podcast. You can find us in all your favourite pod apps. And then I've got my website, gardenofyoga.com.au. And while I'm based in Australia, I do offer online classes via Zoom. So if you'd like to practice with me, you can join one of my live classes or tune into my online library. So thank you so much for having me on your show today.
You are most welcome, Miss Jo. Yes, people, let's support Miss Jo Stewart, because if you support her, for sure, more and more empowering books to publish, more and more empowering episodes of the podcast itself, and for sure, more and more empowering advocacy to thrive. And tune in for our episode with Miss Jo on Book 101 Review. We will talk about her book for sure. So I have one more question, Miss Jo. Looking at your own journey through these stages, how has your relationship with your yoga practice fundamentally changed? What have you let go of, and what have you embraced?
I think it definitely has changed when it went from being something I just did for myself, my personal practice, into teaching. And I had to let go of yoga as being just my own safe space where I could retreat from the world and have my own time and my own space, because once you teach something, you just have a different relationship to it. It's your work, and while you absolutely love it and love sharing about it and want to learn more and more about it, I don't think that if you're spending all of your day teaching and learning yoga, going to a yoga class is necessarily the same as if you're doing something completely different. So I think that finding another hobby that is not what you do for work can be really important. And for me, that's painting and also swimming. And I found that having experienced like meditation practices in yoga, I've been able to drop into those states of mind. And swimming is pranayama as well, it's breath work. But I'm able to shut down that part of my brain where, if say I went to another yoga teacher's class and they teach a really cool sequence, part of my brain is like, oh, I've got to remember that, I've got to build on it, I've got to like explore that more. So I think to have hobbies that are just hobbies versus things that are your life's work and passion is how my yoga practice has changed, and not expecting my yoga practice to be my everything. Like, you can love it, you can love sharing it, but having other things in your life that might be your time that's just for you is something that I had to learn, and something I had to develop on my journey from just being a yoga practitioner to being a yoga teacher.
Miss Jo Stewart, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure. Thanks so much, Daniel.
What can people see you soon?